Now we're going to put the serpentine belt on. Start at the bottom. You got to kind of wiggle it in behind the bracket for the AC compressor. Around the tensioner, up around the alternator. It's going to come around the other side of the fan pulley. Once you've got it pretty close to lined up, take your wrench, take the tension off the tensioner. That should give you enough room to get it lined up all the way around. Once it's on, check, make sure it's all the way around the lower pulley. Power steering pump pulley, alternator, let go of the tension, that belt's on. Now we're going to put the AC belt back on. Put it around the AC first, then around the harmonic balancer. And install the tensioner. Tensioner has the 2 bolts that hold it on. One right here. One right here. We're just going to snug these bolts up, then we'll tension the belt. Locking valve. Now we're going to tension the belt. The way we do that, we can put our 17mm wrench here, push down. You don't want it to be too tight. You should be able to turn that about 90 degrees in the middle. Be on the tight side with this. It's tough to tighten up if it's too loose. The belt will squeal a lot, make a lot of noise when the AC is on if it's not tight enough. Tighten down both bolts, and we're all set with that. Now we're going to put the water pump drive belt on. What we do is put the inside pulley on first so that our bolt holes line up. And we're going to put the belt over the power steering and let the belt sit. What tightens this belt is the tension of the pulley. So we're going to start away from the belt over here. We'll get this bolt started. Then once this one's started, we're going to spin it, start the next one, spin it, start the last one, and then we can tighten all 3 of them down. Once all 3 are snugged, same as when it came off, we'll pinch the belt between our fingers and tighten them down. We're going to put the 4 bolts back in the fan, put the fan back on the fan clutch. Again, get all 4 started before you tighten any of them down. While we're working on the fan, you always want to look at it, make sure there's no cracks around the outer ring or any of the blades. If it's cracked anywhere, throw it out, get a new one. When they break, and they do break, it will damage the radiator. Okay. Now we're going to start putting the nose back in place. You're going to have to push in with your body. What we're going to do is start all of the bolts on the nose, and then once they're started, we'll go back and tighten everything. You've got 2 on top here, same 2 on the other side. And then 1 on the side down here. You always want to check and make sure before you put any bolts in that the fender's on the correct side of the nose. You may have to lift the nose, wiggle it a little bit to get things lined up. And again, before we tighten these, we're going to put them all in, so we'll go do the same on the other side. On this side, we'll do the same thing, push it in with our body. We'll get them started. 3 on this side, 2 on the top. One on the side underneath the headlight. Before we tighten these, we're going to put the bumper supports on. Okay, now we're going to put the bumper support back in, slide it in place. We're going to start the bolts that hold the bumper support. Once we get these 3 started, we'll go ahead and take out the bumper bolt that we threaded through to support the nose. We won't need it anymore once these bolts are started. We're not going to tighten these down until everything's in place. Now we'll go do the same thing on the other side. Okay, same thing on this side. I'm going to get all these started before we start to tighten any down. We can take out the bumper bolt. Now that they're all started, we can go back and tighten them all up. Okay, now we're going to slide the bumper cover back on. The first step is going to be to plug in the fog light. If your car is equipped, 1 on each side. Helps to have an assistant holding the other side of the bumper as you do this. The next step is going to be to reconnect the headlight washers. We're going to put this hose together. We'll put the black clip back on the hose. That holds them together. Once they're clicked, we can take our zip tie off. Now our headlight washers will work. We're just going to lift the bumper up into place, slide it back while lining it up with the bumper mounts. Pull it out a little bit so it pushes all the way back. We're all set there. I'll show you how to click them back on. Okay. Got the bumper cover pushed back. It's not clipped on. First we're going to put the bolts back in. You can put your finger up here, feel the hole, wiggle the bolt around, it should go almost all the way up like that before it engages the threads. Once it engages, you can go ahead and tighten this down. You don't have to get the other one started before you tighten this down. Same thing on this side. Reach up with your finger. You can feel the hole. Should be able to wiggle it. Feed it almost all the way through before you need to start threading it. Go ahead and tighten it down. Okay, bolts are back in the bumper cover. Now we're going to put it in. What we do, lift it up so it's lined up. Once it's lined up, give it a couple of good smacks. Tug it a few times. That's staying in there. We're all set. We'll do the same thing on the other side. Same thing on this side. Get it so it's lined up. That's it. Give it a couple tugs. It's in there. We're all set. Now we just put the two bolts in from the back side. Those are the first ones we took out, and we're done with the bumper cover. Now we put the grills back in. All we do is start it on the inside, push it in until it clicks. It'll click in place. Once it's in there, you're all set. Same thing on the other side. Same thing on this side. Start the grill in, give it a push, and it just kind of clicks into place once it's in there. All done. Okay, we've got the coil and spark plug back in. Now we're going to put the intake in. The intake slides in from the side. Got to kind of wiggle it to get it lined up. Clip it onto the air box first, then you can use your fingers from the front to line up the two screws. Get them both started, then tighten them down. The only thing that's left is to make sure all of your drains are tightened up so the coolant doesn't run back out of it. Top it off with coolant, bleed it, let it get up to temperature, check the coolant level again. You're all set.